Hey, welcome all you goblins, gobettes, gobos, gobboramas. It's good to see you guys. We're back for another episode on the evil Red Skull. Last time it seemed like he got away from us a little bit. But today we're going to tackle that OSL on the face, get him a little bit closer, and then we'll have a better idea where we want to go with the rest of the model and be able to finish him off. Because that's a big portion of it right there. So, today we're going to use quite a few blue paints, but first, as always, purple. That's right. That's right. Because purple is objectively the best color ever, that's what we're going to start with. We're going to move on to this dark blue here. Let me see if I can get him in shot. The Abyss Blue. We've used that quite a few times. It's a really good color by Two Thin Coats here. After that, we're going to move on to this Cursed Blue. And finally, Twin Suns Yellow. And then of course we're going to mix all the way in between all of these. But so that's the plan for today, to get that OSL going. Get that kind of set in stone so we can move quite a bit further on this model and get him going. Last week, like I said, he threw me a couple punches, but I got his number this time. Let's go ahead and grab him. And remember, we've got this guy in two separate parts for easy painting. So for right now, we're just going to leave that like that. Let's see if we can get that. Looks pretty good there, maybe. Awesome. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and grab that purple. That was that Amethyst Rain. This color, this is set up as a transitionary color because we're doing the Red Skull. He has a red skull. So to move from that red to that blue light that's shining on that there cosmic cube, we're going to throw some purple in the middle here. Remember, as always, we want to thin down those paints. See, fairly thin paint there. There we go. And we're just going to blend that purple coming in this way towards that blue. And it's going to darken in that red a little bit. If you happen to be in chat there, make sure you say hello. Hit me up. Ask me a silly question. I like silly questions. All right. See right there, we're going to hit the side of that head there. Just laying in a little bit of this purple just to set that mood. There we go. Now we're also going to lay a little bit of that purple over this black here. And again, it's just setting that mood. It's just cooling down that area, setting it up for that blue that's going to be added. Just a little bit of black here that's on the arm. So all these upward facing areas here are going to catch that light. As we said before, that circle is going to go around here. You can kind of see. And that's our circle of light. So that's our light source. We're talking about OSL, object source lighting. That's the source. So you imagine all your highlights coming off of that area there. Get this guy in shot for you. Lay down some more of that purple. This whole area here. A little bit facing up that way. There we are. Get this hand. Now for the cube, we're just going to paint the whole cube. We don't really need any black here. And if you get a little paint to run down onto that hand, it's actually a positive thing. Because this whole area is going to be getting a good coat of that bluish light hitting it. There we are. Oop, got out of shot there. There we are. Just laying in some of that color there. It's looking good. All right, now that we've set some mood there, we've got some purple laying in. We're actually going to move up to our middle blue first. You might say, why do you do that? Wouldn't you want to move to your next stage, that dark blue? No. We want to go ahead and set up those highlights, block in those highlight shapes. And once we get those shapes established, we can come back with that darker blue and blend out those edges. But we want to block this in first. Ooh, there we go, get him back on there. Now, I'm looking at it as if I am the cube, and that's how I'm trying to figure out my highlights here. So the first thing we're going to do is grab the stuff that the light is definitely hitting. And we're just grabbing all these little details here and laying in a nice sloppy highlight. Again, we're just establishing where these highlights are going. Now, let's go ahead and also get started on our cube here. We're going to highlight the center areas, and we're just going to put some splotchy marks at the center of each side. We're not worried about it, we're just setting up that color. I'm going to go ahead and take him off of there. We're wearing gloves, it'll be alright. There we are. Just throwing a little bit of that blue into the center of each one of these little areas here. And again, you can let that run down into those hands. So we're also going to grab those. So, now that we got some blue started on this cube, let's go ahead and also take this blue and hit these edges that are facing the cube. Now I like to do the edges first whenever we're doing stuff like this. And the reason why is because those are my brightest parts. I like to go to my brightest parts, hit those parts up first, because then as the brush leaves, or as the brush empties out with paint and it doesn't have as much paint in it, you're painting the darker and darker areas. And if you're painting from light to dark, that can make it a little easier for you. You're kind of naturally painting the darker areas as you're losing the paint off the brush. There we are. Just going to paint all these little areas, throw some blue. Oop, sorry about that. I'm working on it, guys. I'm working on it. You know, that's one of the most challenging things about drawing or painting on camera, is keeping it in the shot. There we go. We're just going to blend out those edges a little bit. We're just building up that color. And let's come in from the other side here. Remember, you always want to work from the part where you want the least amount of paint to the part where you want the most amount of paint. You want to move your brush into the direction of where you want the most of that color. Right, now we're going to move this blue into this hand. You can kind of see right there, because that hand's getting highlighted from the light that's coming off of this cube here. That's starting to get there. It's still very dark, as you can see, but we're going to fix that. All right. Now we're still not even going to use that darker blue yet. We're going to start working in a little bit of this Twin Suns yellow into that blue we just had. We're going to create a next stage highlight color here. Just grab a little bit of that. Mix that in with our blue over here. We're just making a slightly lighter color. Maybe about a 1 part to 2 parts blue mixture. Just a little bit of a highlight there. Get a nice point on our brush. There we go. We're just going to highlight up a little further. Creating that contrast. And you're going to want to go pretty dramatic with these highlights whenever you're doing object source lighting, because the light source is so close. You know, when it's just the sun you're using, the light source is very diffuse because it's very far away, it's going through the environment. But when you're doing OSL, that light source is super close to the object. So it's going to be a lot more dramatic. Alright, yeah, just push a little more of that blue in there. Come back over here. Hit that edge. Hit that edge, hit that edge. There we are. We're just going to kind of hatch mark our way through. I like hatch marks because they're easy to glaze over. Just kind of feather that out. Just a little feathering. We're not doing anything super complicated here. Just the edges we're going to hit with this lighter blue. Bringing that highlight down to the bottom on this piece on the chest. Create a highlight there. And you see this isn't super complicated. It's looking really, really bright. We're going to tone that down with that darker blue once we get back to it. Kind of highlighting up here and coming back down. Let's go ahead and grab the center part here. And as we always talk about on this show, especially, is the ugly phases. Is these projects, when you're working on them, there's times when they are just ugly, and it's hard to get past those points. Because you're looking at it and you're like, this is not what I'm imagining. And it can be tricky, I mean, to keep that motivation on that project. So, it's good to keep in mind that you're going to have these ugly portions of the project. You're going to have these times when it's not looking like you had planned. All right, add a little more highlight right in the center portions. And we're not worrying about blends. We're not trying to make it look perfect. We just want some light on there. Give us a good idea what this thing is going to look like. We'll add a little bit of our blue in some of these various sections here. Blend some of this blue in on the shirt, on the lapel a little bit. Alright, that's looking ridiculous. And like I had promised, we're going to grab that abyss blue. This is going to help us blend back. This is going to take us back home. So now we do want to thin this one down a fair amount. Wipe off our excess. Let's go over this blue to kind of give you an idea there. Kind of get an idea. How that looks there. Again, it's a really thin paint, but that's fine. We want that to be pretty darn thin. Alright, and we're just going to blend into the recesses, into those shadows. I don't know why I keep putting him back on there. So we're going to grab and pull in to the red area, because that's where we want that shadow to go into. Just going to keep working on his head here. Work into those recesses. And by darkening this up, we're making that lighting a little more dramatic. Coming over here on this side, pull that away from the blue into the purple. Now you can kind of see too how that purple helps blend that. There we go, there we go. It's looking good, looking good. Grab some more of that blue. We're going to work that into the chest here. And if you notice, I didn't spend too much time on the face, because I'm going to come back. I want this to dry, these little glazes to come in there and dry, so that I can paint back over them without worrying about tearing that paint or messing up what I've already done. Work that abyss blue in there. And we're going to work that abyss blue into some of these purple shadows here and things, so we get a little bit more of that blue blending through, but in a darker form here. We can use it to line the recesses of this coat so that we get that blue hue, that kind of tinge. I'll work over here on this side, pull that away, create that nice blue shadow. All right, we're just going to do the whole hand here, pretty much. Because it's so close. That's looking good. Now I'm going to take some of that curse blue, some of that abyss. I'm going to mix those together to get a nice medium color. There we are. Kind of get an idea for that one there. All right. Now I'm going straight to the cube. Here, we're going to work that edge of the highlight. Start lightening up those outside areas as well as darkening in the middle. There we are. And I still want to leave a little bit of the darkest color, the darkest little bit on those edges and those corners on this, because this thing has a light coming from the inside, is what I'm imagining. And so where these corners meet on the cube, the most material is there for the light to pass through. So that should be a little darker. And again, we're not worried about getting it on the fingers. We're going to come back. By the time we're done, those fingers are going to be so covered in various blue paint. We just need to highlight those, and those will be done. All right, we're going to take this middle again. We're just going to work that in between. There we go. Just working a little bit of that in there, here and there. Creating that transition area. I'm going to do that over here too. We're going to thin that paint down just a little bit. So we can get a little closer to a glaze here. Obviously we don't want too much. There we go. Just working that blue into that area between the darkest and the middle blue. There we go. Come back over here. Work some of this into the arm. Again, working in the middle, blending out those areas. There we go. Just working it, massaging it, give it a little squeeze, a little love. And see how that's going. And see, that's starting to get there. See, that's starting to look pretty cool. It's still a little strong. We can tone it down, we can clean it up. We got a fair amount of work to do on that cube. I'm going to go back and grab some more of that mix between the abyss and the cursed blue. We're going to work some into this cube here. The darkest parts of that are a little too dark. We're going to brighten that up around the outside rim there, while also kind of shading out the center, creating a better blend. So this cube has a nice cool gradient on it. We're going to hit this hand again. Look at these middle layers, see if we need to grab those blending areas. That's looking pretty cool. All right, now we're going to go back to the cursed blue. Work that back into that cube real quick so we can start to brighten him back up. Try to get you in there as good as I can. It's a little too much paint on my brush. See how it's pulling up right there? We don't want that. It's not what we want. Yeah, here we go. Just working that in there. Just working that blue in there. Being very careful, because we want to keep the outside edges of each one of these panels pretty dark still. What's cool about working in these thin paints is you just go over, you can go back and forth as many times as you want. I like to joke that I like to paint on something until I can't stand looking at it anymore, and that's when I decide that it's done. I'm not suggesting you necessarily do that, but you get the idea. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and just kind of blend over the whole thing here because we got this nice kind of a glaze. That's looking pretty good. That's looking good. Oh, hopefully you can see it. Cool, cool. All right, let's go mix up a little bit more of our highlight. The mix between that sun yellow and that cursed blue. This is more of a 50-50 mix. A little too much paint on my brush. This is a pretty good highlight there. So we want to be a little more sparing with this one. Oop, bumping the camera. There we go. I keep trying to put him on there. There we go. Now we're just working that highlight in there, getting that blue looking good. One second here. I got that little bead of paint that dries on the end of your brush. You guys ever get that? It's pretty awful, huh? I'm not a very huge fan, that's for sure. Oop. Gotta quit hitting the table. Alright, grab some more of that highlight blue. We're going to continue to work that into the face here. Being very careful. We're going to use less and less paint as we're highlighting here. See if I can't grab that lip there. We'll come back for the teeth and the mouth part. Alright, that's looking pretty good. Let's grab these other edges. Sorry about that. Alright, so you can kind of see where I'm at here. Just grabbing the edge of this coat. And then the ribs here. And when you're doing OSL, you can almost kind of think of it as like you're painting in grayscale almost. Because that light is so strong, it's going to color everything in that area. It's looking pretty good. Cool. Kind of see where we're going there. And we're still going to have to kind of blend those together. In fact, let's go ahead, grab a little bit of our Abyss Blue. Now we want to thin that down quite a bit because we want more of a glaze. Kind of see, that's a dirty water consistency. There we go. And now we just want to pull away from that highlight just to blend the edge. You may be thinking, oh, that's an itty bitty little highlight you're going to be creating there. Yeah, because it's dramatic. You know, when you've got these harsh lights, you've got smaller highlights, larger areas of shadow. At least that's one way to think about it. Cool, cool. Blend out these edges here. Alright, now we're going to paint the edges, kind of like we're edge highlighting, but we're doing it with this blue, this dark Abyss Blue. It gives that cube a cold the further to the outside you get that I'm looking for. You can make different decisions with yours for sure. Yeah, right? Oh my God, Blue Skull. Good to see you there, White Chocolate. Could always count on you to hang out with us a little bit. That's looking pretty good. We're going to have to tone it down a little bit more still. Let's go ahead, throw him on there, and we can get an idea what we're really looking at here. Kind of get an idea. And you can kind of see how I need to darken out the edges of these highlights here to make that blend in a little bit better. In the meantime though, let's keep working on this cube. We're going to throw some highlights in the center here of each one of these panels. We're going to get a little more highlighted. And I'm just stippling here for this. And stippling's good because it gives it like a, I don't know, a comic booky energy, like the Jack Kirby circles almost. And each little step we do gets closer and closer. You know, we're laying on more and more layers, but we're getting a more and more complex piece of work. Oh, heck yeah, there, white chocolate. I'm glad you can stop by real quick while you're at work. Gonna go ahead and get this guy. I know this is a harder area to see. I'm also going to bring this blue down into that hand there. Now that I can see it too, we're going to come a little bit into this area. Where else here? Make sure we get all these panels. There we go. Just doing some stippling now. If you're like me and you're doing similar hand motions, turn the model around every so often, and that way you don't get a regular pattern of your brush strokes, and you can get it a little more random looking. All right. There we go. Some of you might be thinking, hey, why didn't you use an airbrush for this part? Would have been so much easier. That's a good question, but I wanted a little more control, and I wanted to plan this out. Plus, I thought doing something fully brushed like this would be a good learning experience for all of us. When you have opportunities to increase your brush control or to do exercises, you should always take them. Figure out how you can maximize your learning experience. Yeah, yeah, I do like the bright comic book style color saturation. That's true, white chocolate. I like that quite a bit. Anybody who knows me knows some of my favorite colors to use are bright neons. All right. Now I want to make an even brighter version of that last blue.
Yeah, we're going to make an even brighter version. What's going on, guys?
What's going on?
I see you got white chocolate in here.
Right?
How about that? What's up, white chocolate?
We could almost guarantee he's going to stop by and say hello every time.
Well, I mean, if we're lucky. At least.
If we're lucky.
Not going to be long. We're going to see white chocolate coming to town to visit.
That'll be awesome.
He's going to try and make me let him drink on stream, but I just don't know, white chocolate.
It got a little rough last time, didn't it?
Yeah, we did. Like, I had to mop this floor 3 times.
3?
After Rob nearly died on it.
What did he eat?
I don't know. I don't know. Julian was kind enough to pick up the solids.
The solids.
If you will. But yeah, it was...
there were multiple states of matter involved.
It was a lot. For a guy that doesn't do any drinking to then have to go on to babysit for 4 hours after the fact, I was like, how did I get roped into this?
And no offense, but how are we going to babysit white chocolate? I feel like he's the one that usually babysits us.
Yeah, white chocolate is a bit of a daddy figure, in a way. He's also got a weird uncle vibe from time to time.
Weird uncle, yeah. Fair enough.
Every so often, he's that wacky little brother.
Yeah. I know he keeps me in the straight and narrow, that's for sure, whenever we're hanging out.
Well, the best he can until you find some gas station mushrooms.
Hey, Cryface is hard to maintain, you know? I get a little wily sometimes. Las Vegas is a heck of a town, that's for sure. And as you can see, we're just adding a little highlight here.
Start with the OSO. Nice.
And it's very bright, but we're going to tone it down as we go. It's nice to go bright because then you can glaze down that I found in a lot of these situations.
I take a different approach. I just slap some paint on it and mess it all up, and then I do my best to try and unmess it up. And sometimes it works.
That's all I'm really doing, but I want to sound like I'm doing more than that.
Oh, come on. You've got the deftness with the brush. I'm on to you, sir.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. But yeah, we're just adding a little bit of that really bright mix right here to the brightest spots.
I just wanted to check in and say hello.
Definitely.
I've got some stuff to do around the shop here, but I'll be checking back in.
If you guys are in town and you feel so inclined, come by Counterspell and say hey. Come visit us. Take a look at some of the stuff we got going on here. The official home of the Hobby Goblins is a nice little game shop to come check out. And as you can see too, I'm not spending a lot of time getting these blends perfect. I just want the light where it needs to be, more than anything else. There we are. That's super bright. But again, we've got that abyss blue. We'll be able to tone it down quite a bit. In fact, let's go ahead and do some of that now. Again, dirty water, essentially.
Got a little homework for you too, Cryface.
Oh yes?
Yeah. You gotta go ahead and assemble your 10-man roster for MCP. Of course, you have to be, I believe it's like half has to be unaffiliation, and then you can kind of fill in from the other half. So it is feasible that you could have Captain America and Red Skull on the same roster, although you'd have to pick one to be your leader, and that would be your primary affiliation.
That sounds a
Right.
little sacrilegious to me, is all I'm saying.
I mean, sometimes you gotta do dirt. I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. Well, however, I'm almost halfway through my roster. Julian is going to get his Black Order going.
Nice.
So yeah, we're going to need you to get your 10-man assembled so we can start doing some MCP games.
That's true. I can't wait too. This looks like a really fun game to play.
It is pretty groovy. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. Well, and you get to play with, if you're a comic book fan, some of your favorite characters, little action figures essentially, and do some of those cool, fight scenes that you saw in the comic books or what have you with your friends. We're just working some of that blue glaze over that red there. Pretty much working it over all of the areas where we have overlaps. I got Julian over here cleaning the floors next to me. That's really nice of you there, Julian. I appreciate that.
Hey man, what's going on?
Hey, what's going on?
Yeah, I feel like abuela over here.
A what?
Abuela?
Dude,
Yeah,
I'm
see-
too
see-
white
see-
for that.
see?
I don't know.
Just mop it away.
Yeah, fair enough. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Just got off from work, came on over, see what's going on over here, helping out.
It's always awesome to have you come by and help out.
Oh yeah, this is good stuff.
It's one thing you can count on with the Hobby Goblins is they'll always come by to help you out. They
Oh,
might need you to buy them some lunch or something afterwards, but they'll definitely help you out.
Yeah, the lunch part's a little good.
Yeah.
That's always a good thing. Oh, awesome. What do you got there? Oh,
Back to the Red
Sam.
Skull.
Nice.
He got away from me a little bit last time, so I thought come back for a round two.
nice. Yeah, so you got the Tesseract glow going. That's looking good.
Working on it. It's a little bright, but I don't know. I like my Tesseract bright,
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that.
I want a bright, colorful Tesseract.
Right in the face.
Right in the face. You got any projects you're working on right now?
Well, I was painting my Black Order, and now that I come up here and see the amount of X-Men that's painted up by Jacob, I'm kind of jealous.
Right.
But I started, well, I'm putting together the Noise Marine box set, so all the Emperor's
Nice.
Children. And so that's taking a little priority right now. So soon enough, I'll get all that stuff done and get back to the Black Order for sure.
How do you like painting up that set, the Emperor's Children?
Well, I'm not painting it, just assembling currently.
Gotcha.
But definitely coming up with ideas on what we're gonna do for the paint. It's gonna be interesting. It's gonna look good.
That's a good point. You know, how difficult is the assembly process on that one?
I don't like it. Worst
No?
chaos. Worst chaos kit so far to date, in my opinion.
Just from difficulty?
It's like a lot of the like sometimes at least in the past you can open up a box, don't need instructions, toss it, and just assemble away. You know,
Right.
straightforward. This one, if you mess up and put something, you super glue something somewhere that's a little off, messes up the whole thing.
Oh, wow.
So I hate that little aspect of it, but it's Space Marines, Chaos Space Marines. So
Right.
So they're always like that in some kind of way.
I will say they look cool.
Oh, they look great. They look phenomenal.
I mean, maybe the aggravation will be worth it in the end, you know.
Very true. I think I like getting some color on them, seeing what people are doing right now too. They look great.
Have you happened to see Duncan Rhodes just did one?
No, I haven't seen his yet.
Yeah, he did kind of the skin color on the armor kind of style. That kind of peachy.
Oh, the
pink.
Flawless Hosts. It's like peachy and like purple.
Yes.
Flawless Hosts. Yeah, I know
Yeah,
that
it's
faction.
really cool looking. He did a really good job on that. Some nice black trim. I mean, he's a legend, you know.
Yeah, of course. I mean, come on now, Duncan Rhodes, two thin coats.
Right.
He's infamous for that line. So.
You know, he can get something really clean looking very quick. That's something I've always, been very impressed by certain painters that can get something that's super nice and still be super, super fast with it.
Yeah, I'm jealous of that too.
Considering how long it usually takes me.
Oh, well, I believe in you. Well, you're going to have that guy done today, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, look at that. Space Wolf Dan saying hey.
Oh.
Good to see you, buddy.
Hey, man.
Always fun, always fun. Let's get a look at how he's coming out here. It's not bad. It's not bad.
Looks good to me.
It's a little brighter than I might expect, but it's looking pretty good for a tabletop type quality here.
That's all we need.
That's pretty slick. Okay. What about you guys? I like to always ask every week, what projects are you working on right now? What's got you motivated? What are you excited about? Maybe to get started on? I always like to get inspiration from you guys and all the cool stuff you're working on. I'll work a little bit this middle blue. Creating a little bit of a gradient here. There we are, getting those edges on that cube. See this funky shape we got here, we got to clean that up. Get a little bit more of a circular vibe going. There we are. Starting to look good. Starting to look good. But as always, and I got to remind myself too, don't spend too much time trying to get those purple perfect blends. What's more important is you get the shapes of the shadows and the highlights right, so they look more natural. All right. That's looking pretty cool. I'm digging that now. That's pretty slick. All right. I'm going to take a second, stretch my legs out real fast, plan my next move. Oh, looks like Space Wolf Dan's going to be assembling that Emperor's Children box as well. Well, Dan, you know, you just heard, it's going to be a tough one. But let us know how it goes. I'm going to take a second, stretch my legs, plan my next move on this guy. We're going to get him done today. All right. Whoop, shaking that camera. Looks like a earthquake in here. All right. Now these little ribbed areas right here, see those? I think we're going to do those in red. I think that'll look cool. So I got Sanguine Scarlet. Pretty good red color. I like it pretty much. Now the first thing we're going to do though, we're going to take him off of there so we can attack these and not have to worry about it. I'm going to switch gears a little bit. So I'm going to grab that purple that we used earlier. And again, because purple is objectively the best paint color ever to exist, we're going to go ahead and lay that purple right on these ribbed areas here. And what's cool is now we can clean up that recess and where we had got a little paint that we didn't want in that area. Excuse me. Just get that purple in there real good. And what's cool is since we've already done these other areas here, we have an idea where our highlights and our shadows are going to go. And I know we've got those leathers to come back to. We'll come back to those. It's just sometimes we fill in these different areas of the model and it gives us a better perspective of what we're working on there. Now, last time we used that Hellspawn red, which we are going to use to highlight here. But first we're going to go with this Sanguine. And because we got these small areas, I want to mix a little bit of that purple in with this Sanguine first. Because these little ribs are small. Ooh, they are very small. Let's see if we can't get these suckers. We got our highlights on either side. I'm just going to do striations on either side. I'm not even worried about where I'm doing them, because we just want the highlight area right now. And what are these made out of? Rubber? Something like that? So they're going to have a little bit of shine on them. Same thing with this guy over here. We're going to follow that same highlight right in the middle on this one. There we go, that's looking good. I'm going to come back over here, grab some of that pure sanguine, mix a little water in it. There we are. Now we're going to be a little more careful. Try to get it just on the ribs this time. Now it's a little easier to see them since we've put some of that mix on there and that purple. Oop. Just little striations here. And in some cases it's just a little dot. I'm going to do the other side here where this other highlight is. Same thing. Just little striations. That's okay. That's looking pretty good. We're going to go back to our mix, pull some of that into the middle there to separate that from that purple. There we are. We're trying to get like a reddish, rubberish kind of vibe here. And what I'll probably do at the end of these is come back and recess shade those too, so we can get them looking a little more defined. These little details like this, you know, it's how much time do you want to spend on something like this? These little spots. You know, I have a tendency to spend probably too much time on these types of things, but you have to decide for yourself how much energy you're going to put on the little ribbed areas of his pants here. You know? Alright, we're going to grab the middle on this one. That's looking pretty cool. I'm digging it. Now is when we grab that Hellspawn Red. It's a very similar color. And we don't need to use a lot of it. The biggest reason why I'm using it is really just to tie in with our cap. To use this highlight. We've already used it on the head. I just find that that sanguine's a really good base. This red's a little brighter, it's a little more orangey. So if you want something a little more red, sometimes it's good to give it a nice little base. But these we're just going to do a little touch. Just little dots. Oop, let me get you on camera. There we go. just along those areas where we decided that highlight was going to go. Let's go ahead and do the middle on this side. There we go. And see, it's giving us a cool looking little vibe here. He's looking a little fancy, but that's okay. We like him a little fancy, right? Now let's take a quick look. I'm going to grab this Berserker Red. I believe this was the one we used last time. If not, you can correct me. With this brown. Because I want to throw a little highlight on this part of the jacket here. This other lapel. See, this is our highlight area from this side. So when we're planning our highlight, we need to plan it with this light source from this side in mind here. There. There. There we go, and that's kind of how that highlight will go. Obviously we'll blend off those edges. Let's take a look at this leg over here too. We can probably block in our highlights there. We've got this area right there. It's gonna need it. Over here, we got our shadow in the middle. That's cool, that's cool, that's cool. And let's take this highlight, bring it around. All right. We could even throw some of this red, or this brownish red, just right around. Yeah, it's looking good. Now, I'm going to grab Magos Purple real quick. You guys know Magos Purple. Magos Purple. Great color. We're just going to take some Magos Purple real fast, put over these ribbed areas, just to differentiate it from the boots a little more. Give it a little bit more of a purple vibe. Now look, this color scheme could be crazy, completely off the wall, and not very useful at all. But that doesn't matter. We're just gonna see how it goes. Yeah, I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure. Let me know in chat. What do you think about those red things? We can change that color. Maybe a gray or something would be better. let's creep in and grab back to this head a little bit. We're going to grab our purple, thin down. We're going to reinforce the back of the head, the red here. Just going to work some of this purple in first, reestablish that as our middle transitionary color here. We've got a big shadow area, so we can probably work that red in a little bit further than we thought. So we're going to get this purple in here. I'm going to go a little further with it because I'm going to blend in some of that with the blue. All right. Let's grab our purple. We're going to mix a little bit of the Hellspawn red with it. There we go. We're just going to start working that in. And you're going to see, once we're done with this part, we're going to have a little more red than what we had before.
What's going on, Space Wolf Dan? Actually, I have some plastic glue up here at the shop for you, too. So if you find yourself around this way, you can come grab this in the meantime. Otherwise, you know, it's showing up in a couple days. Sounds great. What's going on, Tristan? How are you? Great to see you.
She's always coming and hanging out at our streams. It's great. I love that I can get the support like that.
Hell yeah. Think about all the time that we did all the art at the house, and it was like all like people would really only see like a couple of work in progress shots here and there, or maybe like a picture of a finished product that wasn't professional photography. So
Yeah,
you know,
a lot of not professional photography.
hopefully these streams help kind of demystify these processes for
Oh,
folks that
absolutely.
are,
Well,
haven't
and
seen them in person.
share some of the things that we've learned over the years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm going to grab that pure Hellspawn red now.
That Hellspawn red is vibrant, dude.
Yep, yes it is.
That's one of the key reds I used on that Magneto. And it's hard to do a red gradient without coming back to highlight with oranges or, you know, essentially pinks, right? But that Hellspawn is vibrant enough. You put it up against some of these others, like I see you got on the table over here, like that Berserker red. You know, you can actually work that Berserker red up to using the Hellspawn as a highlight. And
Well, exactly.
it shows a really nice vibrant red.
Well, and you can do use the Hellspawn to highlight Sanguine red. You can use this Hellspawn to highlight even the purple if you wanted to get into a reddish purple.
Oh yeah.
So this is actually a really good color. I was talking before about the difference between that and kind of the Sanguine. Sanguine is a really good base if you want to get a nice vibrant red. But that Hellspawn really punches it up for you. As you can see now, I'm taking a little bit of that Sanguine just to work it in between there.
You know, in 40K, you know, there's places we can mess around with vibrant colors in 40K, but by and large, there's a lot of it, you know, tends to be a little desaturated, maybe leaning a bit grimdark. And so messing around with these MCP models, you know, is a great excuse to go, you know, super vibrant.
Exactly. I'm actually going to take this Sanguine and go over the whole thing just to get a little bit more even coverage. And as thin as my paints are, it's actually letting a lot of that Hellspawn shine through. All right, we're going to work a little more purple and dark blue in there, get our shadows worked in a little bit more, but I've got more of that red showing now on the back here. So we're going to have a little bit more of a drastic color shift between the two. Like I said, purple is objectively the best color because of its ability to mix colors together. So now I'm going to take this super thin down purple, almost like a wash, just kind of blend this stuff together. also going to take this purple glaze and go over some of these blue parts too. We're going to get up underneath our shadows in here. We're going to use some of this purple for the blue and the shadows. Mix all of this together so it all blends in nice and neatly. Go ahead and let that dry. All right. While we're letting that dry, we're going to grab some more of that amethyst rain. I'm going to mix a little bit of that with that reddish brown we had. What's the name of that color? Berserker red, that's right. That berserker red. Just like we did on the coat at the bottom, we're going to do a little bit of that up here as well. Blend a little bit of that purple in there to give us this interesting leathery kind of look here. Use some of that over here on this side as well. And I want to use more purple on this side than blue, obviously, to differentiate us from that light that's over there. That's the reason why I chose blue as a light, not only because that's generally the color of the cosmic cube, but it also goes against the warm colors, the reds that we already have. All right, that head's dry up there. We're going to come back, throw another little coat on it. And I'm just hitting right where these two colors meet, right where the purple or the red and the blue meet, creating that little transition area. And this is the fun part about glazing. You just kind of throw it on there, wait for it to dry. We'll come back and glaze some more of this, glaze more in here. But I'll purple out that collar a little bit. There we go. See how he's looking. Nice, nice. That's looking pretty cool. I like that. Now real quick, I'm going to take some of that pure Twin Suns. It is going to be thinned down a bit. You know, these lighter colors, these off-whites and these whites, usually very chunky paints. But you can kind of see what I got there. And I just want to do some dots. Some of the brightest areas, just little dots. Just to create some of these areas of immense contrast. Get this bottom lip here. That's right. My Red Skull's Cosmic Cube is really glowing. Directly on his face. All right, I'm going to take a little bit of that here and work on this edge. Just on the edge, or attempt. A little bit over here. Get these raised areas. We can come back and clean this up. But again, we're not worried about getting this perfect. What we're worried about is making sure our shapes and our highlights and shadows are in the roughly the right spots. Just keep working this in here. Now the inside of this cube, you know, I'm just working some rough shapes, stippling and hatch marks. Give it a little bit of texture, make it look like it's uneven, the energy that's coming out of it. It's maybe fluctuating or pulsing, who knows. However your cosmic cube works. You know, you do it your way. Just using the side of the brush here. All right, we're going to grab a little bit of our mix between the two, our Cursed Blue and our Twin Suns Yellow. Remember that mix we had? It's about a 50-50, roughly. You can see here. Just going to work some more. These outer areas here. Where we did some stippling. Let's flip this around so we can get some different shapes in there. That's looking nice. Definitely going to have to get my MCP guys done pretty quick so I can play with my buddies here. We got some stuff at home as well. Me and my stepson got some MCP characters we need to paint. I have so many models on my backlog. I'm sure you guys know all about that. That pile of shame of mine is getting a little shameful. You know what I mean. All right, let's go back to our Abyss Blue, make a glaze, dumb this back down just a little bit. In between, hit the recesses, hit the edges. This is how I like to do it, you know, you highlight up and then glaze back down. It's the way I find that works best for me for this kind of stuff. But you know, you do your own thing. some blue in there. Work some blue in these recesses here. Now we took this blue a little bit further than we originally planned, but that's fine. Alright, now let me grab some of that abyss. Not very mixed, and we're basically going to edge highlight but we're going to edge highlight this with a dark color like I'm doing to show where the thickest part of this cube is, where the light has the most trouble getting through. There we go, almost messed up. Alright. Let's make a slightly brighter version of that mix between the cursed blue and the yellow. Tell you, getting in here and getting the cube to look right has been some of the most challenging part of this project. There we go. All right, and now pretty much just the yellow. All these sides here, we're just going to work on some of this pale yellow. Let's take a look here. Steve Straight, edge D-light, I like that term. That's a good one. Yes, edge D-light. Getting there. It's not quite where I want it, obviously. Let's take a break from that OSL though. Now that we have an idea of what it's going to look like, we can start coming back to this jacket here, get it kind of hammered out, finalized. I'm looking at this. I want to be able to glue him as soon as we possibly can here. We'll handle that for another time, because I'm thinking that I want to get some putty, masking putty, mask putty at the top, and then just airbrush the underneath of this right here with some nice reds or something. But until that happens, we're struggling with some stickies here. That'll work. All right. I know we had highlighted before with the Cerberus. So using Berserker Red and the Cerberus is what we're going to be highlighting this coat with. There we go. All right, we got about a 50-50 mix of that Cerberus. Let's take a look at where we could throw some highlights. Now this is thinned down quite a bit. And you know, sometimes you just mix up paint and then figure out where you're going to use it. Start with, let's go ahead and start blending in some of this. Now we had, I'm going to go ahead and take them off there. We had a brighter highlight here. I'm going to actually go over that highlight because this mix that we have here is a little bit better of a in-between color. Like I said before, we were just laying in some colors before on that jacket. We'll get him a little hammered in. Grab this edge here. And then after the fact, we'll come back and we'll do a pen wash with a Leviathan on this coat. Get all those highlights looking pretty good. People don't realize the role that heavy shadows play in your highlights and how important they are. A lot of times people feel like they don't have enough highlights in a piece, and really they just need some darker shadows. You wouldn't believe how many times I see that. We're just going to take this mix, go around the model and start highlighting up all the different little areas that need it. Oop. Hit this edge right here. Hit this edge right here. Just come around and hit all these edges. Just want to be careful not to squeeze too hard because we're holding on to the model. Let's get our excess off of here. Yeah, I like this color better here than what we had on there before. All right. Let's come this way. Bring this highlight all the way down. Grab a little more of that Cerebus brown. Didn't quite pour enough out. And this is a bit of a liquidy paint. Make sure you shake it up and just be prepared to have to mix the crap out of it. All right, let's go back. Remember, we're just hitting edges. That's all we're doing right now. Just using the side of the brush, carefully grabbing that edge with that lighter version, that mix of the Cerebus and that Berserker red. Where's our body here? There we are. Now before we did this belt in brown as well, I might change that to black. I think that might look a little better, because it's all starting to blend in. I got all this brown, all this red. When things start to blend in, they just get a little too muddy, and you need to find a way to separate them, whether that's with value, whether that's with color, what have you. But you got to do something. All right, that's looking good. This is a little bit more that reddish brown. Not a mix. Just going to pull that around here. Round up at the top here as well. That's looking good. Ooh. I might have to connect this guy at some point here. Go ahead and thin that down a little bit more. That's a little hard to go on. We're going to lay in a big swath here. There we go. This was moving along a little too slow. Sometimes you just got to draw in a big old highlight or a big old shadow and then blend it afterwards. Cool, cool. Got a purple. Work this purple into the middle areas here, and then we're going to blend it out. And again, we're just being sloppy. Coming back. Now that we have a better idea what's going on with the blue over here, we can plan it out a little bit better for this jacket. I'm just throwing this purple into all of these shadow areas that I had previously set up. You kind of get an idea for where that's going. Let's you kind of see where we're going with this here. And you see, I like this purple and this brown combination here. I don't know, it gives it the leather an interesting look. Yeah, I don't know about these red rib parts or the red boot. One or the other is going to have to change. One or the other is going to have to change. It might be the boot. That's another thing about working loose like this, is at any point I can go back and paint over and readjust. And a lot of times, the layers that I've already set up, the layers that I've already put in, no matter what they are, is only going to help my process a little bit, because it's going to give me more variance. It's going to give me more different shades and modulation into the color to make it a little bit more interesting. Like Bob Ross used to say, there is no accident, there's just happy accidents, man. There's just, you can't really do anything wrong. It's paint. You just paint back over it. We're going to grab a little more of this purple. I'll work a little more of this purple into the shadows on the jacket here. And what's cool too is we'll be able to go back and use Leviathan purple as almost a black to really knock any of this down that we need to. Let's throw a little more purple on that head there. That's looking cool. So now we're going to take this purple, we're going to mix it in with that Berserker red. We're going to blend out some of the stuff on this cape here between that purple and that reddish brown. I'm going to lean more into the reddish brown areas and the purple shadows because I want to keep a lot of that purple shadow. That's looking sharp there. You just draw your shapes in. We're just going to draw those shapes in. Right around the outside areas here. Just where those two colors meet. And anywhere else we got some shadows, I guess. Come over this side, do the same thing, just right wherever that stuff meets at. There we are. Now this is that highlight color, that mix, that Cerebus brown, that Berserker red, because it's kind of a orangish kind of mauve color here. There we are. I'm going to use this to kind of create an edge right along here. Edge over here too. Be very careful. Grab our edge over here. All right, that's looking pretty good. We've got some nice purples, but we need to start working some super darks in there. It's all starting to get a little brighter. What's that, Steve, there? Curious if you've got a suggestion. I'm painting some MCP X-Force with some models doing double duty as X-Men. I'm looking for a dark blue contrast, and I'm thinking my color would be the blue. Yeah. Any other suggestions or thoughts using MPC as a contrast paint base layer experiment project? I like contrast paints as a base layer, using a darker contrast to give us some shadows and some midtones, and then you can highlight up from there. My favorite blue is this Azurman blue. That's going to be more of a middle blue though, to be honest with you. When it comes to a darker contrast blue, I don't usually use a dark contrast blue. Normally what I'll do is use a middle blue and then I'll shade down from there. Now that being said, if you're wanting to do a dark blue, find something, maybe something kind of desaturated, something with a little bit of green in it. I like those choices. A good option to kind of give you an idea is this a best blue. So maybe not this because it's not a contrast, but you figure something kind of like this. I'm not sure what the contrast equivalent to that is, but that's kind of what you're looking. Something like a Candor blue maybe, if you want to go GW. Those are the colors that I kind of like for that. Also, you know, if you're using a lot of dark blues, instead of basing your models out in black and then doing your zenithal, base your models out in a dark blue and then do your zenithal, and maybe incorporate a layer of a blue into your zenithal as well. That way you've got blues as your whole base there. So then when you go to add a red or a yellow or an orange or maybe even a bright green or something like that, those colors are really going to stand off of all of your bluish, grayish areas. And I'm guessing if you're doing X-Force, I'm not sure if you're doing the X-Force that contained Wolverine from the comics, where they all had gray outfits, or if you're doing old school X-Force, as in Archangel and Cyclops and Beast, the original X-Men team, or if you're doing Cable's X-Force from the 90s, in which everybody had a different color costume, who the heck knows. I'm not sure if that answered your question, but hopefully it gave you something to think about at least. I mean, that's the hope, right? All right, we're going to keep working on this cape here, or this jacket, and get it closer and closer to something that I can stand. These large swath areas, you know, capes, jackets, anything like that can be really tricky. You can work on them forever because there's such large areas to like try to blend out. And at some point you got to just call it. You know, you got to say, hey, I've worked on this enough at this point. I'm nowhere near that point on this specific piece, but you do have to do that at some point. Just throwing a little highlight on these edges. Again, you know, you edge highlight as you go. And you can be a little looser, you can refine in the later steps. I don't know, it makes it a little bit easier for me to edge as I go. I don't want any funny jokes with that. This is a family show. Notice this sleeve here needs a little bit of highlight. I just did a very fast chunky highlight there, and we'll blend that down. I find it's just easier that way, you know. Block in a highlight or a shadow with some very opaque paint. I have that bead of paint on the end of this. As I was saying, block in that highlight or shadow, and then just blend out the other edges. Yeah, Steve, I think that might be an easier way to go. That being said, I have been working on some Trench Crusade models. I was using blue, and the way that I did those is I started out with a very dark brown, then zenithaled a gray over that, like a bluish gray, and then I did a eggshell white, and then over the top of that I took rust streaks from AK, went over the whole model, cleaned it off, so I had an oil wash over my zenithal, and then I started applying contrast paints. I didn't ever have a full white, and so that when I was able to put the contrast color over it, all I ended up with shadows and midtones. And using this Azurman blue, I ended up with a fairly dark blue that I can highlight up from, with a couple little areas of highlight that kind of give me an idea where I need to go to get me started. I like that method, where you do your oil wash and then you throw your contrast over it right after your zenithal. I think that way works really well. Again, experiment. That's the whole thing about this painting process, is try different things, experiment. The worst case scenario, you just have to paint over what you just painted. And you might have learned something new and interesting. You know? Get in there and mess around. Mess up your model. Don't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid to mess up the models. He's still wiggling over here. All right, we're going to apply some more of that reddish brown. And we're going to apply some over here on this side. I don't know what color that cuff's going to be yet. All right. You know what? I'm looking at those rib things. I don't like them at all. Don't like them. What we're going to do, we're going to take that Abyss Blue for right now. I'm going to darken them in with the blue. We will come back and figure those out at a later time. Right now they are bugging the crap out of me. Making them blue is just going to get them out of the way. And I can re-figure that out at a different date. Grab a little more of that. There's one thing, you can get a model playable, ready to go on the table, and it might not be done. Maybe you pick out a model for years. Sure, you've got it on the table, you've been playing with it, but maybe you touch it up here and there, make it a little bit better. Don't be afraid to do that stuff. All right. Doing that makes me feel a little better about the reddish brown on the boots, so I think I'm going to figure that out here. And because this is a different, no, we're still going to go with the purple actually. We'll make this look like it's part the same kind of material as the jacket. That same kind of leather. Right. We're just going to take this purple and go all the way around into the different shadowy areas that we had planned. Sure is a lot of purple in this model. Probably because purple is objectively the best color there is. I'm going to keep saying that too. Maybe you guys will believe it. Booyah! Alright, that's looking pretty good. Just get the shoe a little bit. I don't even know if these are boots. Shin guards? Is that what these are? I'm confused. Maybe you can answer that question for me. What the crap are these knot boots that are on here. All right, we're going to create our little highlight on either side because we got our shadow in the center on this piece, this little part. We're going to have a highlight up here. And as I always say, we're just going to draw in those highlight shapes. Oop. Sorry about that, guys. There we are. Again, just draw in those shapes.
Got a little party going on in here. What's going on, Steven Strait? Great to see you, brother.
As you can see, just coming in here, working that brown into the edges. We're just creating those shapes, like I said. Nice and neat.
Hey, that's the same thing I say about my figure. Creating shapes.
Creating shapes.
And the shape is round. And
Always round. See, again, we're not even thinking about blending.
When's the last time you stood up and stretched?
It's been a couple minutes, that's for sure. I can feel
Well, when
a
that
little
time
stretch
comes,
needed on my
I'd
back.
like to get in there and take a look at what you're working on, man.
Why don't you go ahead and do it?
Well, I'm going to go ahead and do it.
Why don't you not... Yeah, why don't you do it?
Hey, you're not my real dad.
I could be.
Is that an option? Is there an application process? I mean, how does that work?
I'm not even sure.
Yeah, getting that OSL going is looking pretty sharp.
And it's pretty bright.
Now, are you going to have any of this OSL kind of spilling down onto this cape right around here?
If it does, it's just going to be a little bit because that cape is the furthest away from everything else, and it's being blocked by the hand.
I'm just like, when I look at it like top down and see like the way the light, like right here, the rim of this cape right here, might catch a little bit of blue on that outer, like right in here.
Well, again, you want to be careful because right underneath there, all that light's being blocked by that hand right there.
Yeah. That's like looking top down from this cube. That cube overhangs his hand right here, and the straight lighting down basically hits like that belt right here. Now, it looks really good though, dude. Looks really sharp.
And I'm trying to keep my circle around
A little
that
smaller.
area. Yeah. And it looks a little brighter.
Because you can look at the distance. The light is moving that far.
Yeah.
All right, so we kind of look at the distance again here. Yeah, it might stop just short of that. Take
If
that.
anything, it'll be just a touch.
I've defeated Red Skull.
Well, it's not that hard.
Yeah, you're doing a great job here, dude. Guys, these Marvel Crisis Protocol models, at first glance, they're like, oh, that's going to be way easier to paint than 40K. But the thing I've found about it is that these Marvel Crisis Protocol models, there's a lot of smooth surfaces that you have to add the textures with your brush. You have to define the volumes with your brush because they're not really clearly defined, right? If you do a slap chop, for example, on a 40K model, you get a ton of detail that appears because of the density of the detail. If you do a slap chop on these, you just end up with big white spots, right? So yeah, all that brush blending you're doing.
Something that might
really
work
good.
on these, though, and it's something that I've recently done some experiments with, is painting with makeup sponges. Not cleaning off your oil
Right,
paint, but
right,
actually
right.
painting with makeup sponges.
I've actually seen quite a few people doing that online as well, doing Space Marines up that way.
I did a test with an old Death Guard model I had, one of the Terminators, and I painted him red, and then did a Death Guard armor scheme, the pale one, the
Yeah.
bone colored over the top of that, just as a test to see how it would look. It paints pretty well. You gotta definitely moisturize those things, get them a little damp before you throw some paint on there, but it's a fun way to paint.
Well, I am super excited to start getting this game cooking. So it's really awesome to see these MCP models getting painted. Like we said, I do have almost half of the Brotherhood done. Well, I've got almost half of the Brotherhood almost done. I don't have any of the models that I've got started painting finished, but I've got a really good start on them, and I feel like give me another 2 weeks, I'll have my 10-man roster, and then I'll figure out if the stuff I've painted is any good or not.
Well, I'll have to get my cap team together, start getting some more heroes painted after this guy, for sure. But all right, I'm going to get it back in here and tackle a little more of this brown. This painting isn't super exciting when you're painting a cloak like this. Like you mentioned, there's a lot of smooth areas that you have to build those gradients and shapes in yourself.
Yeah, that's why, like, when I did that Magneto cloak, I really focused on getting, like, texture into the cloak, the big flowing robe versus a tight latex suit. Like, I wanted to make sure you could kind of see the material difference between the two of them. But that just takes time, right? You can't just throw a quick blend on there and be like, boom, done. It's a ton of just layer after layer and just building up and building up. For reference, the body of Magneto, not to mention anything on his base, was a full 3.5 hour stream, right? Just to get the body done. And, well, I got Sabretooth and Toad like 3/4 of the way done in the background of a battle report last night, you know, so it's also like trying to figure out the right times to spend the extra time on it and then the right time just to go get her done sort of thing.
Well, that was something I was mentioning early too. That's good you bring it up, is what parts of the model do you focus on to create that you spend more time on, that you want people to focus on, versus what parts of the model do you just kind of, you know, lower resolution painting, so to speak?
100%. And again, for the comparison from one property to another, 40K, a lot of the faces are very expressive and well defined. A lot of the Marvel Crisis Protocol faces are very small and easily obscured. Red Skull there, of course, being an exception to that rule, but you look at Magneto, you look at Captain America, they've got these tiny little pieces of face that don't really serve very well as a focal point, right? You know, typically somebody picks up a model, that's where they're naturally inclined to start the model, right? That's the first thing that's going to catch them is the face, and so you kind of have to do more stuff around the model to support the face. That way when their eyes land there, you're giving them multiple things to look at so they don't necessarily notice that there's not a whole lot of face there.
Exactly. Well, again, it's just where's your hero portion? Where's your hero shot on the model? What is the thing you focused on? Because it might be different on yours, your Red Skull versus my Red Skull. Maybe I
Definitely would be, because I would not be doing all of that OSL because I don't have that same talent level you have with brush blending
Lord.
there. If I did an OSL, it would be some airbrush tricks just to try and sell it. But the time you spend is typically going to inform the outcome of the thing, right? You being able to spend that much time and use those skill sets to get that OSL done is always going to look a lot better than something I do quick with an airbrush.
Well, it all depends on the type of painting you like. You know, some people want to do, or some people prefer to do an OSL with an airbrush, and they do that absolutely amazingly every time.
I found my favorite type of painting is finished.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's the thing that speaks to me 100%.
I was just completely out of shot. Nobody said anything. You guys are just letting me get away with all kinds of stuff. I'm going to take him off of there. Right now, I'm just kind of darkening down a little bit of that sleeve. So that the light doesn't need to be quite as bright the further away from the model you get.
Get back out here into the store. Just wanted to pop in, say hello, check
Always
in on
great
you.
to have you come by and say what's up. Always enjoy your input. for sure.
That's what she said.
Whoa.
She didn't. She didn't, let's be honest.
She didn't say that.
She said, stop.
She said, that's it? We are rude to each other here at the studio. It's awful. These guys are...
Sometimes when I'm
awful
here by
influence on
myself,
me.
I'm rude to myself.
All right, I'm going to take this purple here. We're going to work that into the shadow areas on these boots. These are very small movements too. Another thing to point out is I'm just working this paint around the outside edges for the most part. All right, we're going to take, I do about a 2-to-1 of the Berserker red with the Cerebus yellow. I'm going to work that right in the middle, in between where we got that highlight right there. And we got that Berserker red. And this is just layer painting. You know, this is that old school, put a color on, put a slightly brighter color on. We're just doing some paint mixing, adding some extra layers into those areas to help create a little bit more of a gradient. We don't gotta go super crazy on all this, because a lot of this is getting covered up by that jacket. See? Oop, see? Trying to get this guy in focus. Sometimes you just got to give them a little looky-see. Maybe we'll throw just a little bit of red on the or a little bit of blue on the very top of that cape there, or that the belt on this. God, I'm using all the wrong words. Yeah, that helped out a little bit there. All right, I'm going to grab some of that pure Twin Suns. I'm going to throw one more highlight on the center of that cube, and I think we might have that just about highlighted. About as far as we need to go with it. Make sure we don't have too much paint there. pretty thin. Okay, pull him off of there. That needs to be a little more opaque. We got a little too thin there. I'm just doing some dots. Some little dots, little stipply dots. Some more little stipply dots over here. Oh, my head's getting in the way. More stipply dots over here. Go over here to this side. Some stipply dots, stipply dots. Have a little highlight here, the brightest, that yellow. Alright, let me color that tooth back in. The teeth I always try to come back and do last. I mean, it's so hard to paint those little teeth. Same thing with the eyes. Always come back and do those after the fact. God. That's looking pretty sharp. Take a look at what we got here. That's looking pretty cool. Still not sure what to do with those ribbed areas. Those shoes. Let's grab a little bit of Leviathan purple. And like I said, this is dark. This is super dark. So I'm just going to go ahead and color in the shoes. Because I don't think I want to go with the same brown or the same gray. And we're going to go and grab those rib pieces and just make those all the way dark. Not everything is going to work out. But like I said, you can just paint over. And this is nice because we can use this color as kind of a black without having to actually use a black. Alright, that looks pretty cool. That's better. Ooh, what is that? Little piece of speck of something there. Let's go ahead and paint this hydra symbol here. I'm just kind of going over this with this red, trying to leave as much of the shadowy color as I can. Meanwhile, this belt here, I'm going to brighten up a little bit so it stands out from that red a little more. There we go. So we're still using the red brown. Oop. We're going to go slightly brighter when it comes to belt leathers and things like that. So now this is that pure Cerebus. I got this pretty thin. Trying to just create a little highlight. Basically just kind of doing little dots here. And now we'll do an edge around the rest of this belt. And if you overdo it, that's fine, because we can always come back. All right? Just paint, we can paint over it. All right, and that Cerebus yellow. Oh, look at that. Look at that. That's all right. We'll get that off of there. Some. It's all right. We can fix that. All right, we're going to grab that Cerebus yellow over here and grab this belt. run a little edge right there. Alright, we're going to touch that here. We're just throwing highlights wherever we can. It's looking good. Alright, now that we got that, we can come back, throw a little red on this belt buckle. Come back in and get that excess paint out of there. That looks good. All right. These little details are super small. Take a little bit of this red too. Yeah. There we go. Let's try to get him in focus. It's looking kind of cool. A little cartoony, a little too much highlight, but whatever, I like it. Sometimes you do what you like and less about what looks accurate. We still got plenty of jacket to highlight. Ooh, we've got red on our brush. Don't want that. There we go. This is always the part of the model that I have trouble with, is just starting to blend in all your little details, all the final bits, because we're getting closer and closer. We got a few spots that we know we're going to have to tackle kind of separately. But for the most part now, it's just going to be refining this piece more and more. Just taking these little spots, working better blends, better highlights, repositioning some of our shadow and highlight shapes. Creating that extra bit of contrast in areas that are too kind of bland. Let's flip this over. We want to make sure that we're working into the color, pulling our highlight color into the most saturated parts. Looks pretty cool. Let me see. Alright, now last time for our gray we used gravestone blue. I'm going to add a little bit of the Twin Suns into that. I need to create a final highlight, a much brighter for our gray. Grab a little more Twin Suns. All right. We're using a slightly warmer gray with that Twin Suns in there to make the highlights on this gray part, these gray parts, a little warmer. Put a little more on there. All right. Let me get that bead of paint off the end of my brush. And right there on that little line, I'm going to add a little more of the pure Twin Suns. There we go. That gives me a nice little warm highlight right there. Let's do the same thing over here. There we go. It's just our gray. That Twin Suns yellow in it. We'll grab a second paint for our highlights. Just mix that stuff up. And now that we see that highlight, let's go ahead and grab some of that straight gravestone. And add a little bit more of it in there. Add a little more gray. A little less purple. Do the same thing up here. Now this is straight Twin Suns. Just little dots. Barely any paint at all. Just a little bit up here. See how the overall composition's coming. There we go. It's a little different. Definitely not box art. Definitely not box art. We got some areas we can still blend out. That Berserker red mixed with a little bit of purple. This little area, ooh, right here. There we go. Again, we're just drawing the outside edges, those highlights. Let's do a little bit over here too. And we go one way and then we go the other way. Pulling from one side to the other and then from the other side to the other with this middle color. I'll kind of blend it out for us just a little bit. Of course, anywhere we also want to darken it down, we can do that as well. Go. Of course, we got to let it dry. We've got a lot of different finishes going on. Once we get a nice matte coat over everything, you can usually see exactly what you need to change or what you need to add more highlights or shadows to. I'll take a little red. This belt buckle here. Try to do the outside edge and then the center part. Let's also get a little more on that. It's not looking bad. Blend out that jacket a little more. And at this point, you know, we're just going around the model, looking for stuff that we haven't touched yet, or stuff that needs an adjustment. Once you get this much of the model done, you're just looking over and seeing what you still need to refine a little bit. There we go. Just accentuating this highlight right here. So I can then take that red brown and blend out those edges. All right, let's go ahead and get a matte coat on this guy so I can kind of see what I'm doing because of all of our different finishes, and also to give ourselves kind of a save spot in case I need to make any drastic changes or anything like that. Again, this guy isn't supposed to be perfect. Looking for a little better than battle ready. Let me grab that matte varnish. There we are. Crank up the old airbrush. We do get our airbrush parts from Spray Gunner. Man, those guys are great. They got just about everything you can think of. Every time I go onto the site, I'm always trying not to buy anything new. But the cool thing is if you've got parts on your airbrush that have broken, you can find a lot of your replacement parts there. You don't see a lot of that stuff around, so it's nice to have a place where you can go get those things. That's whether or not it's nozzles or even parts of the trigger. I don't know how you break the trigger, but you might break the trigger. All right, and all we got here is matte varnish. Squish him down a little bit. We want a thin coat because we're not trying to protect the model from damage. We're just trying to get a save spot and get an overall finish. Kind of see where we are. That's all we needed. Just a little bit. We're going to let that sucker dry for a second. In the meantime, I'm going to take a quick stretch of my legs. Let you guys look at this blurry model for a minute. All right, I'll be right back.
Well, what do we have here? Let's take a look. Steven Straight has some more MCP terrain goodies to drop off soon. Man, I really need to get painting on some of the stuff we've got here. It's really nice work on Blue Skull, man.
That OSL is pretty bright, but
It's pretty strong. It's pretty strong. It looks good.
it's got a nice cartoony kind of look to it, though.
Now, what's the goal with his chest wear? Are you giving him? Is that kind of the finalized colors for it, or are you doing a value sketch? What's
That's
going
more
on?
of the finalized colors. Going for a purplish gray.
Okay.
Trying to do something a little different. Going for, you know, a little the old German colors, but slightly changed.
I can dig it. Yeah, I have to admit, I've been kicking pretty comic accurate on the paintings that I've been doing, which has been kind of nice in the fact that I don't have to do a bunch of math, color theory math in my head when I'm trying to pick a color scheme on it.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
I definitely applaud you for doing something original.
Well, he's the only one that I really want to do something too different with because he was all black otherwise. And that sounded like a boring paint job. So trying to do something a little different. I'm not sure I like the gray as much. I do like the reddish brown leathers, personally.
So one of the things that might also be worth consideration, if you find after you've got it to a certain point that you just, you know, it's not doing it for you, that would be a great value sketch for a red overtone to go over top of it. And the front shot, Red Skull, the front shot is all that OSL on his face, kind of taking the Red Skull away from him. So dropping red right there in the middle of it on that vest could like bring some of that back into it.
Well, and I also had the idea of the top part of the coat being possibly red, or
Okay.
the ribbed parts on his pants.
Yeah.
But those are all things I've got to try. Some different stuff there.
Hell yeah, you're making really good progress. Doesn't look like there's going to be enough time in the stream to get him done today, but you have gotten a lot done for sure. And it looks like not a ton of work left behind.
Well, these are absolute wins for a slow painter like myself.
Oh, 100%.
I'm sure that we got a couple other guys out there that are slow painters, but don't freak out about it. Just keep working on it. You get faster as you go. At least that's what I keep telling myself. But no, I'm going to come back and finish all these off stream, and then we'll have an episode one day where we go back and we take a look at all of the MCP models and what sort of things I added after the fact there.
Yeah, Yeah, that'd be good too.
We'll keep moving along with these.
Well, we're still trying to figure out what Monday looks like up here at Counterspell. There's the possibility, we've Counterspell is closed on Mondays traditionally. We have over the past 6 to 8 weeks been opening the door for customers on Mondays, and it's still pretty slow. If we decide to revert back to the original schedule and keep Counterspell closed on Mondays, I'm going to spend more time in here actually hanging out, doing some producing of these videos with you. And, that'll allow us to get more done at the same time.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Well, and these are all, great exercises. We're doing quick models. We're just working on that brush control, working on that speed. These are the type of exercises that you really want to get down on, where you're not trying to win a golden demon. Just trying to paint a model and make it look pretty darn good,
Yeah, well, and this is definitely a lot more than just painting a model. This is at least halfway towards a golden demon attempt with all the techniques that you're leveraging here. So I know that I for one, am super excited for you to start that golden demon journey at some point, hopefully this year. Who knows?
Oh, absolutely.
Maybe next year to Adepticon, you could have something to submit and, see how it stands up against some of the best painters in the world.
Well, I know we got a Goblin 3D sculpt here.
We do.
That's going to need a paint job.
Shout out Danny Samuels of Terraniacs. Put that Goblin together for us as well. Also watched a video. Are you familiar with Verko's Vault?
I am not.
Grab that Goblin head real quick, matter of fact.
Absolutely.
So Verko's Vault is a guy out in Vegas. He was at LVO last year and the year prior. But basically, he is a private collector of painted miniatures, and Verko's Vault is a museum that he's opening up. You can Google that and check him out.
Wait.
Squidmar did a nice video.
I think I do know what you're talking
Right.
about then. Yes.
Well, I watched Squidmar's video where he was just going through the guy's place, and lo and behold, on one of the shelves, Danny put one of these in there as well.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
So this is Gobros. This is our figurehead. Again, sculpted by Danny Samuels of Terraniacs.
And his rendition of Gobros is great. I love
fantastic.
this little guy. He's super fun.
The whimsy that he built into here was pretty fantastic.
And look at that hair. Good Lord, the detail.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, this would be, matter of fact, I believe he got a pin for the sculpture. I think he got an
Nice.
award for the sculpture on this. So definitely something we're going to get Cryface to paint up.
These are super fun.
Just because I want to see him spend a year painting each hair follicle.
Yeah. That looks like a dry brush special there on that hair. I'm not going to lie.
Dude, something. Like, definitely some dry brushing to be done.
That'll be a fun project. I'd like to do some of that on stream too, maybe. Let some people get to see what it's like to pull your hair out trying to win a golden demon. I'm sure they've seen that from some other painters, but they haven't seen it from me.
It definitely could be an interesting journey to track from top to bottom, where we're able to, go through the painting process as well, but also, as many people that might have seen videos of people working on golden demons, Miniac does it, Ninjon does it, makes video content out of it. There's not a whole lot of video content that shows the path, right? That shows getting there, submitting your model, it being judged, walking through the cases, and like really giving you the perspective of what it's like to be the artist that's got his piece in there for consideration.
Oh,
So,
absolutely.
Could be a pretty good little video series.
Oh, and I think it'd be a lot of fun. I know we both enjoy going on trips anyway.
It's true.
So anytime we get a good excuse to hang out on the road, meet some of our friends out there, some of the other goblins, and get some good video of it as well.
And as a collective, Hobby Goblins are a year and a half on YouTube at this point.
It's true.
The Cave Reps, of course, where we dumped our first great deal of energy. The first year was really spent figuring out how to navigate YouTube with battle reports and gameplay.
Which is no easy task.
But the reality is that, and I think I can speak for both of us, and of course correct me if I'm wrong, but doing this here is why we did all the other stuff. Right?
Oh, absolutely.
Being able to like harness video to make art videos, to like share our processes and like, to share our work. I mean, that's really what that year of Cave Reps investment was, for me and for you, was to get
absolutely.
to a point where we can do this. Now we're very, very early in the Gob Ross stage, right? I think we're week 4 right now.
Yeah, super early.
Right. So we've still got a lot of growing to do in terms of our knowledge base for, using the equipment in this sense. I mean, hell, it's a lot easier to have a camera mounted above a table that's passive and we just hit a button to show the top of the table
That's
versus
true.
something like this where we've got to contort ourselves in weird ways at the table to be able to paint with the thing, to be visible in camera and monitor the focus. So, as we grow and improve, right, definitely want to expand the content we're making, not just doing these sit-down live streams, but really putting together, good, well thought out, pre-recorded videos that are top to bottom on a project in a digestible form, 20 minutes or so runtime.
Exactly.
Rather than something like that Frost Giant was around 36 hours of streams or so, so like, you guys, if you're tuning in and you do like what we're doing here, right, keep in mind that's our prospectus, right? That's our plan that we're going to be rolling out as we acquire those skill sets. Right?
Well, and I know we both have plenty of projects for some pre-recorded content that we'd love to do and that we have sitting aside right now. So,
but making videos is hard, guys. Holy crap. Like, live streaming is the easiest way to go about it.
oh yeah,
Right? It's absolutely the easiest way to go about it. But when it comes down to actually doing pre-recorded content, now we're talking about scripting. Now we're talking about the
Shot
organization
lists.
of all the B-rolls through shot lists, right? You're talking about like an immense amount of time editing, right? So give us time though. We're going to get there. If you do like what we're doing, make sure you hit the like button. That's going to really, obviously help us grow the channel. But more than that, kind of give us that motivation to really push on and do the hard thing. Much like miniature painting, we talk about a golden demon chase. Well, there is nobody that paints up a golden demon the easy way, right? That is a hard thing.
Absolutely.
Right? So, keep pushing yourself, keep opening up opportunities to do the hard thing for you guys at home, and you're going to see growth.
experiment and paint bravely. This is the best thing we can tell you to do. But I want to thank everybody that came out today to check me out, to watch me try to paint this model. It's been super great talking with all you guys. I super appreciate all of our sponsors as well, helping us out, from Tooth and Coats, the spray gunner, and
And old Game Envy.
Old Game Envy.
Yeah, buddy. That's the lucent lights we've got above head, the wet palettes, and just a ton
Absolutely.
of really cool painting accessories.
But thanks again for coming out. Thank you, Jacob,
Oh, my pleasure.
for coming and hanging out with me a little bit while I painted.
Well, and like I said, we may be looking at a situation where that's a more common thing, that we can kind of tag team this and kind of hang out. It's going to be us focusing on showcasing your work primarily for these Monday daytime streams. I get plenty of time in front of the camera painting under the lights with our Hobby Pants series that goes on in the evenings. So, but yeah, I have found doing that, it's always better with friends. And
Always better with friends.
having folks in chat that we can chat with is great as well. But like having a live producer here in the studio while we're painting, I think is also a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you guys again. Thank you, Jacob. And we'll see you next Monday on another episode of Hobby Pants. Thanks again, guys.
We'll see you.